Hi, Flor. Hi, Virginia. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hola, buenos
Hola.
días.
¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo estamos? Wow, this is so fun. I
Very
always
good.
love hearing these conversations, especially because it's educational for, people that don't have these certain advantages, right? And you two specifically have gone through these really intense moments, and I think it's really important to ask you questions and share your story. So, without further ado, I'm gonna just read your bios, and then I'm gonna introduce you and see if you guys have anything to add, and then we'll just jump right into it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm introducing Morales. She is an MBA candidate from Chicago Booth. She was born in Durango, Mexico, and raised in Dallas, Texas. Her latest role was with a sports software company, Team Snap, as a senior FP&A analyst. In the past, she's worked in corporate accounting and public accounting for a range of clients and industries. She considers herself the jack of all trades, period, when it comes to accounting and financing. And she spent a lot of time in lean teams reporting directly to a CFO outside of work. She's passionate about mentoring first generation low income students, which is a big deal. It is such a big deal. And we appreciate everything that you've done thus far for our community. Um, and before I move on to Virginia, is there anything I missed in your bio?
Oh, you did a great job. You got it perfect.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Our next panelist is Oh my God, I'm like glitching today. So sorry. Wow, Virginia. I'm gonna just say it. Like nothing is working. I have to say it the way I have to say it. I'm so sorry. So Virginia, she actually, you might have already seen her because she's done quite a few LinkedIn lives and Zoom sessions with us in the past, especially in regards to recruiting, because she is exactly that, a DE&I recruiting expert, and she is one of the sweetest people on this planet and is such a breath of fresh air every time I talk to her. Virginia is a DEI and talent acquisition professional with a proven record of building and improving processes that improve how startups find the right talent when they need it, as well as coaching candidates on career and interviewing best practices. Her journey has given her a well rounded background in acquiring talent across many industries, including tech, nonprofit, government relations, and international organizations, while keeping a DEI lens. Did I miss anything for your bio too? I think it's just important that people know what your accomplishments are, what you do. So let me know if I missed anything.
No, you were fantastic, and thank you for the love that you show all the time, and it's mutual. You're honestly a pillar to this community, and I just appreciate you so much.
Oh man, I'm very emotional lately. You're about to make me cry.
Well, you just
I'm
gotta
being
be, you know.
dramatic. So we're just gonna really kick right into it, right? Everyone's story is different. We'll start with you, Virginia. So why did you choose to join tech? What was it about it that was like, you know what, this is the route I'm gonna take? Did it just fall in your lap? Was it purposely? Tell us all about it.
Well, I think it was just this serendipity type of journey, right? I mean, I grew up in Washington D.C. I arrived to that area when I was about 13 years old, and I started, went to high school and college there, and it was always instilled in us to just work in politics or get a government job, and I did just that, right? I worked for government contractors. I worked for the United Nations Foundation. I worked for a contractor for the World Bank, and I just felt that it's not exactly a place where you can have autonomy and be strategic as much. It's more like to each your own. I mean, it is fantastic. They're all rewarding opportunities, but I feel that it was definitely that type of job where I would go in and just, provide ideas and color within the lines, in my opinion. And I wanted more. I wanted to just build a spaceship as I was, learning from it. And I wanted to use my energy to create and improve and disrupt. And actually, my partner had an opportunity to move to the Bay Area. And my first reaction was like, wow, no one's going to hire me in tech. Everyone is so impressive. And surprisingly, everyone cared about what I had to say. They loved my positive disruption angle of I'll provide ideas. Here's a proposal that I brought on the interview. This is how I can fix any solutions, like bring any solutions and fix any problems you may have. And just kind of become a partner, right, from the get-go. And I think that that was a breath of fresh air to me, and it has been a constant through my career in tech, and I appreciate that so much, rather than just having a transactional job of yes or no sir, here's recruiting at a how everyone else does it. So yeah, it's just I think that choosing to join tech because I had to get a job in the Bay Area since I was imminently moving, and then finding this amazing gem, it was just definitely a great chapter in my life.
Amazing. It's actually really great to hear that people were so positive, right? I think that's one misconception that certain people, may have about the tech industry, like they're not opening to listening up, especially when it comes to like dreamers or anyone without. Go ahead. Were you about to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, actually, I think that it's yes and no. Like, I think it's how you present it. Because when you go on an interview and you're very intentional about asking of those roadblocks, clearly you're being hired to fix something. There is an issue, there is a backup, there is a roadblock. You're being brought to to overcome it. So that's the mindset you have to have when you come to an interview. And I think that if you solve issues as you go and show on your thank you emails that you're showing intention to fix and you're showing proposals already, that's when it becomes friendly. I think that just thinking of interviewing in tech transactionally and not having that angle is what gives that misnomer. I don't know if I was clear with that, but yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that advice goes for everyone, right? Like, just be ahead of the game and be prepped as much as you can, especially when it comes to interviewing for any tech corporation. So I appreciate that answer. I'm going to pass it back to Flor. Same question. Why did you choose to join tech?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo a lot of the things that Virginia said, especially the part where she spoke about wanting more autonomy and wanting to feel more strategic in the way you work. I was coming from corporate accounting and public accounting, where you are literally given step-by-step instructions and you have to follow them. And if you try to innovate the process and kind of like have shortcuts or be more like efficient with your time, that's kind of like a red flag, because then it's like you might be missing something in your due diligence. So that's why I came to tech, because I wanted to innovate. I wanted to be in a fast-paced environment that was not just like rushed. I wanted to be learning there. I wanted there to be innovation. And honestly, the only reason why I became like a jack of all trades was because I kept switching roles. I was like an accountant, and then I was a tax accountant, and then a senior, like leading the accounting team. And so going through all of that, I just never felt like I was doing enough work that was creative or doing enough to make a difference. I never felt like I had an impact until I came to tech and was given like free reign to do whatever I want. I could disrupt any procedures we had. I could revisit every single process that we had. And similar to Virginia, I had a very understanding manager right off the bat, and I picked that up during the interview process. Definitely, if you're open during the interview process, you're more likely to find people in tech that will drive with you, because like your team will make or break you, because the culture does vary from company to company. You have giant companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Google that have like cultures that are less cohesive, and then you have smaller companies like TeamSnap, where I used to work at. Their culture is very cohesive, and it's like sports all around. So definitely you want to look for some place that you are celebrated, not where you are tolerated.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, period with that last sentence. I realized I was like starting my ooh when I was on mute, but that is such a great line. No, I appreciate that. And I'm sure people in the audience could definitely resonate with that. So with that being said, obviously this discussion is about dreamers in tech overall. So what's it like? Can you explain to our audience like what you go through, whether it's on a daily or weekly basis of being a dreamer and how it affects you? We could start with Float again.
For me, the biggest thing about being a dreamer in tech is dealing with the privilege and the two very different environments that you live in. As a dreamer, you're probably going to be like first generation low income, and you get to exist in these two different worlds where you have really well paid tech employees that work 100% remote and have all these ginormous perks and go to these offsites, and they're just so well off. And then you go back home and you see your family that they're working physically strenuous jobs because they have no choice, like what they can work in. They don't have as much of a choice. And so my job isn't solving for anything that my family is struggling with. So I still see both sides. And that's kind of like your superpower, but it does tax you, you know? So there's like a benefit and a like con to it, because you definitely see holes that your like coworkers don't see, if that makes sense. Like when they're developing products, they might not think about people living in poverty because they're just so focused on like idealizing that their consumer, their customer is going to be the same person as them and not someone who has like more adversities. So being a dreamer in tech is just the same way as being like first gen low income in other spaces. You get to like see both sides and experience both worlds.
I appreciate that answer, and I know you touched on people making products for people that look like themselves or are in the same ranking class, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's really, really important. And I think that's one thing about this community that they're always pushing, right? Like I know our product folk in Tequeria are always trying to push on how to resonate with different people across all levels, all platforms, whatever it is. So I have to definitely commend all of our product people within the Tequeria community, because that's something that they're always willing to talk about and share more information on. And I'm really glad you brought that up. So going to Virginia, same question. Please tell us what it's like, what your experience is like.
Well, I mean, Flora definitely set the stage and set the tone with this, and I agree. So just to piggyback on the product importance and importance of a diverse workforce, especially the ones that directly influence the product, we all saw what happened with apps like the health app that is just starting to really have more integrations and more work around women's menstrual cycles. That was definitely something that was not that user friendly, and it was non-existent even before then. That should have been one of the first things you had on the app. Then we all know what happened with Face ID, with the BIPOC community unfortunately being misconstrued as primates, and that was definitely the result of a homogeneous workforce. And this is why we need more people that are diverse in tech, that are more diverse, affecting the product and driving decisions even at a leadership level, so they can understand when they look down and they're making budgets that they need to invest in ways to make these teams more diverse. So it's definitely like a trickle down, trickle up process, and we all are in it together. It's a very energetic movement, and that's why I think, especially being a dreamer in tech, is so important, right? I think that we're moving with apps like LinkedIn that ask you for an ID to verify. I think a lot of dreamers are in undocumented folks might be afraid of that. As we move with secure wallets, right? When people in the crypto movement, I think a lot of the main services we're asking for a government issued ID. And I think that for a lot of people, it set them back. And, I think that this is why it's so important. And I feel that I occupy space and I'm unapologetic about speaking about it because of that, because I want to help fortify that personally. The other point is, I think that being a dreamer in tech is definitely easier than being a dreamer in other industries that require clearance, right? Like when I was in government, or, industries like healthcare where it's heavily regulated. I had to definitely had contentious conversations with employers about explaining to them that I had ever going work privileges, because a lot of them were like, well, you lied, you need sponsorship, you might be expired, I might not be able to hire you for the long term. And that's why a lot of times I just don't say it. And I think that actually it's something that I corrected, because now I went back to saying it and explaining it and making people understand that it's just as having a ever going work permit. So because I was disservicing other folks that might just keep, might not have that courage to speak and say, well, then thanks for the opportunity moving on the next one. So I think that it's a privilege. Like Laura said, it's definitely a responsibility. And we hold a torch, right? like we're like all of us, elder millennial here, like, all of us are like vets in the industries, like we're holding this torch to like get all these generations behind us to really be empowered and make it easy for them. So I think it's easier. It's definitely a responsibility and a privilege, but also I think that it is empowering because we are making our parents want to work more and feel like they also can take more risks. Like my mom started her own business and she would have never done that if like she didn't see me just like, make it in tech, make it right. And I feel that it's like the gift that keeps on giving. And if I wouldn't have it any other way, really. So, not for the faint of heart, but it's definitely a great responsibility, and it can be fulfilling at times when you have conversations like this and when you have people thanking you for educating them.
Thank you so much. That was, I mean, people in the comments when you were bringing up the facial recognition and everything going on, yes, like the AI, the government ID, those are definitely points that I heard too, because I was like, yeah, we just had a conversation about decolonizing AI and all these things of how it's affecting all of us. Especially like Black, Indigenous people of color. So yeah, no, that was amazing. And you're already talking about like how it's fulfilling to you. So let's just like go into the next question of like, what's a positive experience in regards to being a dreamer? And Virginia, you carried the last question, so let's start with you.
Okay. I think that I can recall one experience. So my first boss, my first supervisor in tech, who's now one of my best friends, and I jokingly call her my tiger mom. She just guided me through life, and she's just amazing in any way. Shout out to Jeannie if you're watching in the audience. When I started working with her, she was doing my I-9, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, Virginia, I don't know if we can do this sponsorship. It might be shaky. For what I hear, the Dream Act it might be over soon, so I'm not sure if we should hire you or bring someone else and just make you like an assistant to that person." And I had to advocate so hard by sitting her and showing her articles and ways that I can have contingency plans to stay if anything was to happen. And I think that was actually a positive experience because ever since then, the place I worked at became open to dreamers, and it became open to offering 1099 work for those that felt comfortable. So I think that is definitely a positive experience because it opened doors and it helped people that were applying. We didn't have as many folks that needed that, but just in case that someone decided to come through the door, there was a plan in place thanks to that conversation I had that I created into a proposal. So I think that that was nerve-wracking for me. At least the satisfaction of having something good come out of it is just one of the best, most fulfilling experience I've ever had. And it actually drove me to speak a few times on how dreamers can get work and undocumented folks in tech can get work. So it's just definitely the gift that kept on giving.
I love that. I love that how you're always so community driven and always giving back in different ways. And I think I had I wanted to ask something else before I went into this positive experience, but you mentioned it already, the Dream Act, right? Like, can you explain to our audience what that is? And Floyd, we'll head right over to you. But Virginia already mentioned it, so I'm just gonna give it to her.
I actually had an entire white paper. You know me, I'm Miss Perfectionist. I knew you were gonna ask. So, by the way, we have a group called Dreamers in Tech, which is partially like a little baby that's like from Tech Korea. I strongly encourage all of those to join the group just to listen and be there for community. I'm part of the founding team, the volunteer team, coordination team. So find me on LinkedIn if you want to learn more. It's dreamersintech.org. And you can find that also our page on LinkedIn and social media. It's with the logo that says DIT. There's no other group. We might have some imposters online, but that's it. So, the Dream Act, it's called the Development, Relief, and Education of Alien Minors Act, really, but it's a Dream Act. That is actually a proposal that granted temporary conditional residency to undocumented folks. We're never going to use the word illegal immigrants here because that's not true. Nobody is illegal. We just live in stolen land. When they came as minors, right? So for like layman's terms, any folks that came here as children with their parents and they were they were not of age to make a decision to come, and then when brought with their parents to America, they have a chance to have relief, which means you would just be considered inadmissible or non-deportable. So if you get caught with a DUI, or if you get caught by immigration on the border, because they do check in border towns, you can actually advocate with an attorney to make sure that you have a grant to stay, because you're protected from deportation. You could be protected from getting caught. You could advocate your way if you get into illegal trouble, but there are contingencies depending on the states. The states that are more liberal, they're more immigrant friendly or not. I've seen a lot of cases of people that just get deported. So it's like I know in California, I know a lot of people get to stay after having a DUI or having a misdemeanor charge. So that is what it is. It's a protection act. Basically, under the Obama administration, Biden, Trump administrations, we've seen an influx of deportations. So pretty much if you were caught in these mass deportations, you could show your documents and show your protection and you would be good to go. So that's pretty much what it means. It gives you also the right to buy a home. It gives you the right to, open a bank account. It gives you the right to have a driver's license and fly, which a lot of undocumented folks cannot do. So the only problem with DACA is that now folks the program is closed. It's been closed for a couple of years for people that are new to the program. So we have a lot of undocumented folks, and those of us, the elder millennials in the crowd, we're still grandfathered in. Under the Trump administration, they actually made it inadmissible or unlawful for people to renew documents. It was very brief and temporary. It only lasted like 90 to 120 days, and I think it became admissible again because of a judge in Texas. So we're still fighting. We're still having hearings about how legit this plan is, because it was actually an executive ruling by Obama. It was not a law voted in Congress. So that's why we need to advocate. We need to all those documented people need to advocate for us. They need to look at what the stances are for any state or federal level for politicians and make sure that they're protecting us. Because if they don't protect us, they're not going to protect their parents, because they're going to come for undocumented folks after. We're like that barrier. We didn't ask to come here, and we all have dreams, and we all are working hard. So, it is unfair for a child that came here without asking to be deported, to not have the right to work, and to not be their best self. So that's the DREAM Act. I hope that all of those in the audience that are citizens, that are green card holders, they can vote, they can influence, please advocate for us, and please make sure that you keep us in mind when you vote or when you volunteer or when you advocate, because we need it. So yeah.
Well, did you have anything to add to that? I know she just popped off, but I love it. I love to hear it.
Yeah, no, she did a great job. The only thing that I wanted to bring up is that every year it does get reintroduced. So right now there is a DREAM Act of 2023, and every year it does include a different number of Democrats and Republicans. So that's where people who can vote, people who can advocate for us can help us, because it's been reintroduced literally for a decade, like every single year, and we just need to get it over the hump. So definitely, if you can support us, advocate for us. There's a lot of dreamers doing different campaigns. I have a former classmate from my undergrad doing 50 dreamers across all the different states and doing 50 stories. So I'll share that with you guys. But definitely, like she said, we're less than 1 million in terms of the DACA recipients. So there's not a lot we can do to advocate for ourselves. We need others to advocate for us as well.
Just so you know, I'm going to give you guys a fun fact. The DREAM Act increases the US GDP by 15.2 billion on an average of $15,371 per legalized worker. Actually, that number is blown. This is a number that would happen if you turn all the dreamers into green card holders. But the number is between $8 and $10 billion, like we actually provide to the economy. We actually have increased taxable income. The DREAM Act could add between 1.4 to 3.6 trillion over the course of the next few years. 75% of increase in income to each recipient if they became legalized. For example, I want a job in cybersecurity. I've been wanting a job as a recruiter in cybersecurity, but I need a clearance. So, and I need to be a citizen to work for Lockheed or to work for these contractors that really have been wanting to work and I still can't. So imagine how my salary would jump exponentially if I was able to get that clearance. So imagine the money that is being withheld. These people are owning houses, they're buying cars, they're putting themselves through school. And a lot of them, like a lot of us, have to rely on private scholarships that are really hard to find because we don't get FAFSA. So like we're putting ourselves to school with no FAFSA and we're putting ourselves to school with private scholarships, which are incredibly hard to get. The link, actually, I got it from Bard AI. These are actually verified facts. Bard AI is the best way to get chat in facts because they actually do have business intelligence administrators behind it. So go on it. And also it is on the dreamact.org website. That's where I got that, from National Archives and dreamact.org website. These are the facts that I'm getting.
Whew, stat queen out here, just throwing out those stats, and I love it. But it goes to show like how much everything could be if certain things just went certain ways, right? But yeah, no, I appreciate that insight, and I will drop the link for the dreamact.org so everyone can also have take a look at it and see, explore it, and also just spread the word and spread the messaging out, especially as Flora mentioned that there's a 2023 Dream Act as well being pushed out there. So yeah, no, I love it. And thank you so much for both of you for your insight on that. And I know we spoke about positive experience with Virginia. So now we're going to pass it to Floyd about a positive experience about in regards to being a dreamer in tech.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the biggest like positive experience is the tight knit community that we have within tech. I love being a part of Latinas in Tech, Vivaja, and mentoring each other. Even though we're underrepresented in tech, the few that are in tech are very good about holding doors open and bringing people along with them, and basically like sending the elevator back down, because we have a lot of mission driven organizations that are powered by tech, and that's what's like helping us break a lot of barriers, if that makes sense, because we get to connect with each other, we get to network across the country, across different states, and we wouldn't get to do that if it weren't for our community and the people who go and make organizations like the Queria. So that's like my 100% my favorite part.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the extra sprinkles for taqueria. I appreciate it. No. This is great. This is great. So I think I didn't even realize, but we are already at time. I had 2 more questions to get through. But I think what we're going to do is when we send out our e-blast of like everything, like do a topic cover, I'd love to get your input on a negative experience, but we'll do that offline and then we'll email everyone so that they can have that information too, just because, even though certain things are flowers, there is some rain at times. So, yeah, so I think the fun fact question, though, I do want to ask you as a fun fact question, just to leave off on a good note. If you could go back in time for a day, what day would you go to? We'll start with Virginia.
Well, I don't mean to be mushy, but I think it was the day I met my partner, Brooks. I've told you a lot about him, Alexis. You know that. You know about my Brooks. It's the day I met Brooks. He changed my life. He made it better. He showed me that even though I had DACA and I was going through my own lies, I was telling to myself I had to push through it. And next thing you know, I'm now like, I'm a consultant and I'm a speaker and I'm all that. He pushed me. If it wasn't for him, I would be just like an administrative assistant, like behind desks in some government contracting office. Yeah. And then also if it wasn't for him, like, arguing with me why we need to move to the Bay Area, I would have never like even thought about applying for tech. So yeah, it was the day I met him. He changed my life.
That is so sweet. That's not mushy at all. I'm a sucker for romance, so I love that answer. Floyd, what is, if you could go back to a day, back in time, what day would you go to?
Yeah, I would actually go back to like the morning we all woke up and Trump was president, only because I would tell myself everything that I've accomplished despite that. You know, he was only a one-term president, and now I am a full-time MBA candidate at like a #1 program with a full tuition scholarship. So at the like that day, that morning, I remember feeling like the world was ending and that I had no future and that like everything was crumbling. But looking back 6 years later, I'm like, you know what? I persevered regardless. And, you know, he's going to have criminal charges brought up against him. And I had an internship that rescinded their offer because I was a DACA recipient, but none of that matters because we're still here today. We're still thriving and we're going to continue to because that's what immigrants do.
I just want to say that was not the answer I was expecting, but I applaud it so hard. I thought you were just going to say something from like your childhood. No, you went in and I appreciate it. That was such a great answer. We are so grateful to have you both as speakers on behalf of Dreamers in Tech and in Tequeria. And yeah, if anyone wants to connect with Florida, Virginia, please, you know, Virginia, I think already dropped her LinkedIn. Florida could drop her LinkedIn too, or, you know, you could find them within the Hopin platform as well and just connect with them. But thank you both so much for partaking in this conversation today. I know it's not the easiest conversation or, you know, whatever the case, but we appreciate you nonetheless. And thank you again. Everyone, sessions are now open. We have 3 FinTech panel sessions that are going on for the next half hour, and then so on and so forth. So thank you all again, and we appreciate you. We'll see you in the sessions. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Have a great one, everyone.